All right, guys and gals, I have a huge surprise for you today. If you are like me, you have been wondering what the daylights is going on around whether or not we qualify for this coronavirus stimulus package. Which package do we, which one do we go for? Which one do we not? Are we even eligible? If we are a solopreneur, if we 1099 people, is that the same as payroll? I mean, it's just been a hot mess. And there's been a lot of misinformation, a lot of folks not knowing which way is up. And I did a live on this, probably 2 weeks ago. Well, things have totally shifted. There's so much more information now than there was then. And so I started asking around. I'm like, who knows what's going on? Like, who has the real deal knowledge here? And somebody recommended our special guest today. And I'm going to introduce you to her now. As you guys are coming in, give me a shout out. Where in the world are you? So Jenny says, dizzy over it all. Girl, right? Like, it has been so stressful for me. I've been trying to figure it out. Like, I applied for the PPP program. That's the payroll protection program, I think. But I'm like, do I call? I mean, I pay a 1099 my people. They're full-time employees. Does that mean I can apply? I think the rules say I can. But of course, I've heard nothing. Like, well, my bank says that I'm in the queue. So what does that mean? We have Maryland in the house. We have Karen from Maryland. We have Orlando. Well, as you guys are coming in, just give me a shout out. I want to see you. I want to hear from you. I want you guys to get your questions answered as well. And I want to introduce you to our special guest today. Let me pull her up here. So welcome. We got Pam in the house. So Pam, tell people. She has a great one-liner of what she does for people. Tell everybody out there what you do for others.
Sure. So my name is Pam Jordan, and I make people more money.
Is that not just the best one-liner ever? We are always like, what's your elevator speech? What's your elevator speech? I'm like, that's a good one. I help people make more money. Who doesn't want that? So it's confusing, right, Pam? How many questions are you getting every day?
It is a hot mess. Like, I've been pulling 16-hour days since this thing went live. Because people are just, our government is wonderful and confusing and a disaster all at the same time. So they passed the CARES Act. It was $2 trillion. Part of it is the money that we're supposed to all get in the mail. And then part of it is the stimulus money to help us as business owners, whether we're solopreneurs, self-employed, independent contractors, or have a business with employees. There is also the EIDL loan, the EIDL loan, which is the disaster relief loan. So do you want me to explain both real quick?
I think that my community, for the most part, are small business owners or solopreneurs that are either, 1099 themselves, meaning somebody's hired them and they're 1099 employees, or they have team members that they're 1099, and because we're virtual, right? So like for my business, I'll just use my business as an example. My entire team is up. They're not here in Tampa. And so I meet the qualification for not having to do payroll because, they're not coming to a physical location. But they're all full-time employees for the most part. The only revenue they get is from me, which means if I can't pay them, I'm a service provider. I have an agency as well. So if my clients, which has happened to a lot of my community, clients have pulled their contracts because they're nervous, right?
Right.
Which means that now we have no revenue coming in. So it's all rolled down. So I think there's two avenues to go into. What are those types of people eligible for? Is it the PPP program?
Got you. So for what you guys are doing, the PPP is probably the best, because for the EIDL loan, you've got to prove the negative effect that COVID-19 has had on your company. And it's also a loan and stays a loan. It doesn't go away. It's not forgivable. Where the PPP, the payroll protection program, starts as a loan, but it can be forgiven if you use the money appropriately. So let's start with if you have employees. If you have W-2 employees, they are on a payroll, then those count in your payroll number.
Sorry. Hang on.
You're
Sorry.
fine.
I messed that up there. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. So for Kim, do you W-2 yourself?
I don't W-2 myself. I get a K.
You get a K1.
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect. All right. So unfortunately, all that wonderful money that you pay to your 1099 contractors, you can't count.
Okay.
I know. So originally the rules were not clear, and we thought that they were going to count.
Yes.
But then the night before, so that would have been April 2nd, the SBA came out with something called the interim final rule, and it's 32 wonderful pages if anybody wants to read it, of loveliness. And basically they said, no, if you pay people as 1099 contractors, you cannot include them in yours because we want them to apply on their own, because otherwise it would be double dipping. So basically if they were part of your number and you applied, it would raise your number. And then Sally, your executive assistant, whatever, could then apply and get money as well. So the government said no double dipping, only W-2 employees count. There is a small caveat that I have one revolving around sales commissions. However, I have only won it with 2 clients. I have other clients that I did not win that. And when I say win it, I mean, I could argue with the bank that yes, they were technically not W-2 employees, but it was sales commission, and they didn't get a 1099 because we paid them through PayPal. So it's really sales commission.
Okay, so that's a great point. I pay all my people through PayPal.
Right, which means they don't get 1099s. However, it's not a battle I can be confident that you're going to win.
Gotcha.
Because what it's going to come down to is you're going to go to apply for this, and the bank's going to say, okay, prove how you paid them. And if they're not on your tax form 941, which is if you have employees, that's your quarterly tax record that proves how much you paid, they're going to say, okay, well then they must have been contract labor and they must have been independent contractors. Show me their 1099s. Oh, well, I didn't give them 1099s because I paid them through PayPal. Okay. Again, I've won that battle twice. I didn't win it with other clients. So,
okay.
The way I won that battle both times is it was with small community banks, not the big guys, not the Wells and the BB&Ts. It was the small community banks. And I was able to clearly explain it. And I was on the phone advocating for my client, that this was sales commission. They're not 1099. They don't get 1099s. And we won. So it's worth a shot if you've got a good relationship with your banker.
So basically what you're saying is if we are 1099 in people, then we most likely we're not going to win that battle. Right. But those that we do 1099 can independently apply and get, but that's double dipping too. Okay. The way I look at it, because I'm still paying people.
Right. And the government's not giving you money to pay them.
And they're not giving me money to pay those people. So if they go like my CMO, who's, is paid via technically as an independent contractor or a W, she gets a W, whatever, a 1099 at the end of the year, then, okay. So she can go apply, but she's also getting paid still. I'm still paying her. So that doesn't meet the definition of smart. I mean, it's
right. So it's our government, honey. So right? Come on, smart, right?
True that. Okay.
So think about it this way: you get money from the government. Mm-hmm. Say you get $20,000 because and I'll get into some number crunching in a minute. But basically, if you're an independent contractor and a sole proprietor, the best you're going to get is $20,833.33. And I'll explain why in a minute. But what that does is, Kim, it allows you to pay yourself so that you can use the operating expenses of the company to pay your contractors.
Okay. All right.
And so what it does is it frees up your internal cash.
So I could apply for myself. Now, another question. So technically, as an agency, um, when I provide a service to someone, then I get the 1099 or the miscellaneous thing at the end, right? So could I, it's a sense, so for lost clients that I've lost, could I claim that as lost revenue? Because technically I'm now a 1099 person.
Lost revenue isn't part of the equation. What's part of the equation is how much money did you pay employees, or how much did customers pay you, or what was your net income? And so the first option is if you're a company and you have employees, they just want to know what your payroll was. What did you pay people?
Gotcha.
If you're an independent contractor, they want to know what people paid you in 1099 income. So that's where you could add up all your 1099 income. If you're a sole proprietor, unfortunately, they're looking at your net income. So they're looking at what you were paid less your expenses and what you told the government you made. So independent contractors who receive 1099s are, in theory, going to get more money than sole proprietors. So if you have not filed your 2019 tax returns and you do not have a Schedule C as a sole proprietor, so I know there's 3 categories. So we'll put I'll assume most of us don't have employees. So under the category of an independent contractor, what you need are the 1099s that you received from customers in 2019 that people paid you.
Okay.
And if you got money through PayPal or Venmo or Zelle or whatever, you're going to have to get those statements to prove you were paid and how much. And that's your number. It's not revolved around your tax return. It's not revolved around payroll because you don't have payroll. It's all revolving around how much you received from customers to provide them a service or a product.
Okay, so it's all your revenue that came in from, again, that you generated through a service-based trade-off. You know, somebody hired you, they paid you this amount of money. So it's all that money, and it's for a period of the year, right? The February 15 to February 15 of this year.
Okay, so there's a gray area.
Okay.
The page 3 of the application says 2 things. Well, it says 2019. It says get payroll information is based off of 2019. And then that wonderful 32-page document, the interim final rule, says it's either 2019 or the previous 12 months. And the previous 12 months has been interpreted in different ways. If you're an independent contractor who received 1099s, going the calendar year of 2019 would be the best, because that's black and white documentation to say, look, these are my 1099s. I made $200,000 last year, or collected $200,000. If you want to do the rolling 12 months, you can, but you just have to then show like bank statements and PayPal statements and Zelle or whatever that shows from these months into 2020, this is how much I received.
Okay, so as that independent contractor, it's all about the money you made. Then that's what you have to apply and say, this is what I made. And then they give you I'm hearing you say they just give you a percentage, and the most you're going to get is.
Right. Okay. So as an independent contractor or sole proprietor, or even an employer, the most you can claim for one person is $100,000. So if you're an independent contractor and you have, say, Kim, you killed it last year and you did $800,000, right, and you have 1099s for $800,000, like, hats off, fantastic, you killed it. Bad news, only 100,000 of it counts.
Gotcha.
So the 700,000 is just like a woo, I rock, but it's not part of this calculation. And the calculation for an independent contractor is the total amount that you received from 1099s up to or less than 100,000. So if you only made 70,000, then that's your number. If you made 101,000, 100 is your number. Anything over 100,000, congratulations, but it doesn't count.
Okay.
So you take the 100,000 and then you divide it by 12, because there's 12 months in a year, and that gives you your average monthly payroll. Because on the PPP application, the first number it wants is your average monthly payroll, which is whatever your number of 1099s is, up to 100,000 divided by 12. So that's number one. Then you multiply that by 2.5, and that's how you get your loan amount. So that's how the math works. As an independent contractor, you take $100,000 because that's as much as they're going to allow you.
Yep.
Divide that by 12, which comes out to
8,333. Yeah.
Yes. Multiply that by 2.5, and you get 20,833.
Yeah. Okay. And that is a loan, or is that that's another thing. So is that considered your payroll for a period of time, and therefore it's not, you don't have to pay it back, or what does that look like?
Got you. So what that means is this is the amount that you're applying for at the bank or SBA lender, online resource, whatever. The bank will then take all the information that you provide them, because you've got to give them documentation. Whether you walk in the door, you email it, or you upload it somewhere, you've got to upload your 1099s to show how much money you made, or your PayPal statements, or whatever you have.
Right.
And they say, yes, Kim, we believe you, $100,000. Your loan amount is $20,833.33. Here, sign this document. It's still a loan. They give you the money, and you now have to be responsible in how you use it. The money is intended for only a few things. It is intended for payroll, benefits, utilities, rent, or mortgage interest on commercial property, not on your house. So like, I work out of my house and I expense part of my house as a home office, but this is a residential property, so I can't use it for the interest on my mortgage. But if I had a commercial building, then I could use it to pay that. Mm-hmm. The key here is you need to prove how you used the money so that you can show that you played ball. Mm-hmm. And if you can prove how you showed the money and that you played ball, it can be forgiven. So as an independent contractor, you would pay yourself out of that money. So what I'm recommending for people who do this is to open a separate checking account and put the money in there so that it's easier to track. Because you're going to have to go into the bank with bank statements, with your utility bills, with all your documentation, cleared checks to prove how you use the money.
Right.
So say Kim gets $20,000. You have 8 weeks. 8 weeks. The timer starts as soon as you get the money to spend it. So if you take longer than that, they're going to argue, why did you not use it all? We gave you too much money. We're not going to forgive it. If you use all of it in 6 weeks, okay, as long as you can prove you used it appropriately, that's fine. So as an independent contractor, what you would want to do is write a check to yourself and put it into your personal checking account. And that is your payroll. And then when it's going to the bank time, you need to show bank statement of where you put the PPP money and the $10,000 left, and then a cleared check that Kim put it into a different checking account, and then what it did clear. Okay. And then, if you're, whatever your power bill, you can write a check for that. You can do online bill pay, whatever. But it's all about documentation. So if you're not good at bookkeeping, either you need to really quick, or you need to hire someone for 2 months.
Yeah.
Or you need to find someone to help you really quick.
So I know, like, for people who've just started a business, they don't have that back chain of events, for lack of a better way of saying it. So they're kind of out. There's not a whole lot that you're probably going to be able to do for within this structure to benefit from it. I saw somebody else asking about equipment. It's not for equipment. It's for payroll. It's can you repay loans with it? Like, if you can't, can you? Okay, no. So it's basically to stimulate the economy. It's to keep people working, essentially, guys. Right. Which, it's just a bit of a craziness, because it really, for those of us on the lower end of the small business spectrum, if we're solopreneurs or whatever, it's not working super well, in my opinion, and it's hard to figure out what we're supposed to do. Okay, so if so, those of you who are independent or own your own businesses, solopreneurs, you basically can take the revenue you made that you're 1099 on, if you're doing services, for example, and that's how you apply. Let's say you are somebody, same situation. Let's just say you are just an independent contractor, and that's how you get paid. But you have it's kind of the same. I think it's the same answer, but it's a slightly different perspective. Same process, right? You take all of your cumulative 1099s and say, this is how much I made. They'll add it up, divide it by 12, times it by 2.5, and it's the same process, right?
That's correct. If you're a sole proprietor and you've already filed your 2019 taxes, you will use the number on your Schedule C, which is a tax form. It's Form 1040, Schedule C. And you're looking for line 31, which is your net income. And here's the problem if you are a sole proprietor and you've already filed your taxes. The money that you brought in is less than the money you have left. And unfortunately, for sole proprietors, they're basing that loan amount off of what you have left, not what came in the door. And if you're a sole proprietor and you have not yet filed your tax return, they're basing it off of your internal income statement. So whatever your accounting software says your net income was, that's what you use. And that's where being an independent contractor and having 1099s, you win because it's off of gross, not off of net. And as far as how to use the money, at least 75% of it has to be used for payroll. So 75% has to be payroll, 25% can be utilities, rent, those kind of things. And again, all of it has to be proved. Like you can't just go to the bank and say, hey, I played by the rules, I used the money, I paid myself. You've got to prove it. And then the bank can forgive all or part of it. And any of it that isn't forgiven remains a loan at 1% interest for 2 years. Now,
still of a deal.
It is. Most of us don't like debt, but your uncle's not even going to lend you money at 1%.
Yeah.
So right now it's a disaster. So even if you can get 20 grand to help you for the next 2 months or 3 months through this time until you can innovate and come up with a new service or new product or new whatever, I'd rather have some freedom during that time to innovate rather than sit at home.
Yeah.
And
now,
not have
another question, because I expressed an interest immediately, but when I still thought the PPP, I fell under the PPP rules because they changed them literally that Friday that they opened this all up. Right. So, right. I'm like, okay. But now I feel like there's still opportunity there. I'll just have to, but my bank sent me a message saying, I'm with Wells Fargo, and they're like, okay, we're over our heads essentially. And, and you're in the queue. So I'm in the queue. I haven't even filled out the application or anything at this point in time. Is the money gone?
Yes. As of about 10:20 this morning, the SBA said that they allocated all the money. And how the math of that works is, again, there's $349 billion. Now, don't lose hope. So hold on, there's still hope, but let me do the math. Okay. So it's $394 billion. 10 of it has been reserved for fees and interest to the bank, because the banks aren't just being nice and lending you this money, they get paid for it. Yeah. So $10 billion is to go to the banks as income for them to handling all the loans. So all of the money is gone. Right now, Congress is on recess. And the Dems and the Republicans, depending, I don't care which side you're on, none of them are playing nice in the sandbox right now. Mm-hmm. So if they could play nice in the sandbox, right now there's a request for an additional $250 billion. Mm-hmm. It's widely understood that that's not enough. Big banks like Bank of America and Wells had their quota in 2 hours to 2 days. Mm-hmm. So it's not enough money. So if the government is truly serious about helping us as business owners and solopreneurs to survive this time, they're going to need to come to the table with more money. Yeah. So I'm very confident that there's going to be more money.
I think so too.
Because if you look at the big picture of why they did this, our government's not complete idiots. They ran the numbers, and quite frankly, it's cheaper to give us the money as business owners and keep us running than for us to be unemployed. Exactly. And then us be on food stamps and medical supplements and, all the other stuff where they have to keep shelling out money. So it's cheaper for us to keep employed either as a W-2 or on our own than to be unemployed.
And that's why I suggest that you guys don't give up on it, because I've been doing research on this myself just internally, because I was like, okay, when I can apply, initially when the bank responded, so it opened up on Friday, Saturday morning, because the form wasn't even on my bank until Saturday morning. So correct. Saturday morning I applied, and literally they had been allocated $10 billion. And I mean, I was within, 24 hours of the time that it was even available. Yeah. And yet I was in the queue, and I've been in the queue now all this time. Yeah. Yeah. But I noticed this morning that they gave me an opportunity to fill out the application. So they're still taking applications. Yes. And I literally just got the opportunity for the first time today. And then shortly after that, I heard they were out of money. So I'm like, do I even bother? But then I'm like, they're going to put more money in the pot. More money is coming. So if you guys have not applied, I suggest you go do so. I think the ones that got it out the gate were very organized. They already had their payroll lined up. They're probably bigger, small businesses. Like I know my husband's company applied and they got their money like within literally just a few days. Yeah. So, but again, they had their own internal bookkeeper. Like they had they were way more prepared than us as solopreneurs. Let's just be real. Us as solopreneurs, we can barely figure out how to do our taxes ourselves, much less have a bookkeeper on hand, right?
Right.
So that is usually a problem for us, but not knowing too, we weren't educated, most of us, on what we could do, which is why I'm so excited that you're here sharing, what we can still do. And knowing that we can, potentially.
You still have a shot. Yeah.
We still have a shot.
And independent contractors and self-employed couldn't even apply until April 10th. And at that point, the big banks had already shut it down.
Yeah.
So there's no logical way. Now, asterisk, it is the government. There's no logical way for them not to put more money, because then us independent contractors and self-employed don't have a shot. Yeah. So they have to come to the table with more money. The question is, how quickly, how much, and with what concessions?
And more importantly, are we ready for it? Yes. So we have to apply to get it. They're not just going to, it's not like the stimulus where, they're giving a family, each individual $1,200 and it just magically appears in your bank account. That is not what's happening here.
No, you got to do the work.
We're not talking about that part. In other words, for those of you, I saw a couple of questions come through like, am I going to get my $1,200 if? That's not what we're talking about here. That's a whole other thing. And if you filed your 2018, 2019 taxes, that should automatically appear in your bank account. My boys have already gotten theirs. And some of my neighbors have talked about getting theirs. So it's coming. It's either it's arrived or it's coming. It's imminent any day, I would think, for most. But this is applicable specifically for whether the conversation we're having today is all around the small business side of this, and how they're helping small businesses stay alive and keep people employed so that they don't have to go on unemployment.
Right.
So
the big thing here is, if you have not yet gotten your name into the pot, get your documents together, get your application filled out, and apply. And you can apply at more than one bank, friends. You just can only accept one loan. The small community banks are winning this race. Any of my clients, and myself included, that have been funded for this, we went to a small community bank. For some reason, I guess they have less bureaucracy, less hoops to jump through. They're the only ones that are actually pushed money into bank accounts. The bigger banks, to your point, just queued everybody up. None of my clients that went to the big banks have gotten their money yet. And I've helped do over $3 million in applications. And I've had some people, get 2,000, and I've got other clients that got $750,000 because they have employees and health insurance and all those things. So if you have not yet applied, don't lose hope.
Yeah.
But get your stuff
Get in queue. Yes.
And whether you go to your local community bank, a big bank, there's other online resources. I know QuickBooks is trying to do it, Kabbage.com, Kabbage.com. Most banks will only take your application if you're currently a client there. So if you're not currently banking with your local community bank, now might be a great time to open a checking account and say, oh, by the way, here's my application.
Yeah.
And that's what I had to do for some clients is they banked with BB&T and BB&T didn't have their stuff together. So we went to the local bank and be like, hey, here's $100. We want to open a checking account. And while you're at it, here's our application. And they took it and it's been approved.
That's awesome. So let me ask, like, some people operate a sole proprietorship under their social, right? But then others like me, I have an LLC, or some have an S Corp. Is it different for those versus anyone else? I mean, is the process the same? It still boils down to those 1090, the revenue, right?
Yeah. Okay. Your legal structure, your tax structure, which are two different things. It all boils down to what money you can prove came in the door.
Okay. So it doesn't matter what your mechanism is for how you, like, the tax piece of it, like if you're an S Corp or operating under your Social Security, or you're an LLC, or whatever, it's still all about the money that come in the door. That's how you apply as a solopreneur or as a 1099, or even if you're 1099 in others. You can't, if you're 1099 and others, the moral to the story is you can't apply because it's not payroll. So you don't apply from that perspective. You apply based on the amount of money that comes through the door from clients. And that's how you apply. So you can still apply. You just have to apply from a different avenue, which honestly, is, when you look at it on the face of it, you're like, well, that's more money, but it's actually not, because you only can, there's a limit of 100,000. So if you made a butt ton of money, or if you're paying out more money, like, I'll just use myself as an example. When I initially did the math on this, and I thought I was eligible because I was counting my 1099ers as payroll, my loan, what I thought I was eligible for was like,
hundreds.
Yeah, hundreds of thousands. I thought, like, at least probably, and I was actually only going to ask for about a smaller fraction of that because I just wanted to see myself through a window of time, but again, that was before I even knew that, wow, it's 1%. It makes sense to just take the whole amount, anyway. Now I know I can't do that. So at best, I will be able to get $20,833.33.
Yep.
But those of you who are, and likewise, those of you who are being 1099, to, like, if, all my people that I pay, go apply, because best you can get is $20,833. And does it, or $833, sorry. And those of you who work for me, I guess you're going to be double dipping. Hello?
Go get in line.
Exactly.
Go get in line. Who's going to pay you, and the government's going to pay you.
I know. So, that wasn't well thought out. They were thinking, well, it's double dipping. It's double dipping in reverse if they're still getting paid. If they're not still getting paid, then that's a whole different animal.
Right.
But yeah, so hopefully we've clarified, and more importantly, and I appreciate it, because I can't say I've clarified.
It's so confusing, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Okay. So again, guys, we're not talking about the $1,200 that the government is giving each individual. That's not what we're talking about. That's something that comes directly into your bank accounts based on your 2018, 2019 taxes. If you don't file taxes, there's a process for that. You can, like, if you're on disability or whatever, and you make less than what you need to file taxes, you go to, there's a website that you go and apply for that, so that you can get it put into your bank account. But what we're talking about right now is pure business. The business stimulus package, which is the care, it's called care. And there's, yeah. And so there's multiple pieces of that. But again, it goes back to primarily focusing in on a lot of you guys that are solopreneurs or service providers who are getting 1099. What's our recourse, and how do we go about applying for things? Which leads me to that last question. If you haven't applied yet, what would you recommend? Just going to your local bank, or going to a small, or maybe both, going to a small community bank?
Yeah. So starting at a local community bank is the place to go. One thing that they're not clarifying is, so they have this big pot of money and they divided it between the banks. Like, it wasn't a first come, first serve. And that's why, like, Wells shut down so quickly, and Bank of America shut down so quickly, because they were only allotted so much money. So once the government pushes out more money, each bank's only going to get their piece of it. So go to your community bank, see if they're still accepting applications. Can you put your name in the queue? And then if you've got a bank account at one of the bigger ones, put your name in the queue, because it's not going to hurt you at all to apply for more places. And the other thing with this is, look, there's no credit check. There's no personal guarantee, and there's no collateral. Mm-hmm. You just have to have less than 500 employees, not be a felon, committed a felon in the last 5 years, current bankruptcy.
Or defaulted on a small business loan, right?
In the last 7 years.
In the last 7 years. So it's a pretty sweet deal. And like I say, if you are, I see Dennis says, I won't be getting a check. I'm 1099 and won't be applying. If you are 1099, you can apply. You just have to prove the revenue that you've brought in over, whether you use your tax returns for that, or you use your bank accounts to showcase that you are getting paid from someone. You can 1090, you can walk in and apply, but there is a cap on it. The most you'll possibly get is $20,888.33. Because it's a percentage of $100,000. And if it's less than that, let's say, for example, let's just run a smaller number. Let's say you only made $50,000, for example, last year from, and you were 1099. So it'd be 50,000 divided by 12. There you go. So it'd be
10,416.
Yeah. So if you made, again, $50,000, the formula is this. Let me give you guys the formula. You take the amount, whatever it is, 50,000. We gave a $100,000 example of 50, because you can't go over that. Doesn't matter how much money you made. But if you made a lesser amount, 50,000, you divide it by 12, and then you times it by 2.5.
Yes. And I have a calculator tool that's helpful if anybody wants that. If you have employees, the opportunity to get more money is significant, just because, like, if you have health benefits or retirement or state and local taxes, like, all those things can add up. But the deal is this money's there for you to utilize. And if you can get your paperwork together, it does not hurt you at all, because you can apply. You don't have to accept it. So say you put your name in, you put in all your information, and sometime between now and June 30th, you get approval. You don't have to take the money.
So Jeannie, we've actually addressed this already. It doesn't matter what type what the structure of your business is. It's all about the revenue. So it doesn't matter if you have
well, hang on. Let me stop you real quick.
Okay.
If you're an S Corp and you get a W-2, 1099s don't play. If anyone in your company, including yourself, gets a W-2, you've got to play by those rules. You can't do 1099s. So if you're an LLC taxed as an S Corp and you get a paycheck, you as the owner, you've got to use payroll numbers. You can't use your 1099 income.
Okay, great.
So that's the caveat. If anyone gets a W-2, it's payroll. If no one gets a W-2, then it's the other options.
Okay. All right. And if it's payroll, like I get a K-1, so is that I'm going to have to look at it from that perspective. Is that correct?
So a K-1 is not a W-2.
Okay. All right. So it falls back under what we've been talking about. Okay, good. All right. So you can apply at your local bank, or any bank for that matter. You just have to have an account there. They do
Yeah.
want you to have an account. So, like, for example, we've been sharing that, or Pam has been sharing that some of the smaller community banks are better to work with, a little easier to work with than the biggies.
Yeah.
So, and if you don't have an account there, like I use Wells Fargo because, I just always have. But
Yeah.
if I wanted to go to one of the smaller local banks, I'd walk in, give them $100 and open an account and say, by the way, here's my application. She says that's worked for her already with some of her clients.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And do we have to pay it back? We've also talked about that already, guys. You do not have to pay it back if you use it for payroll or for rent or utilities, operating, basically, operational expenses. But you have to use that money within 8 weeks. If you do not, and you have to prove that you used it and how you used it. Even if you're using it to pay yourself, you have to prove that. And then any percentage that is not paid out for those things within a 8-week window of time is as a loan for a 2-year period at a 1%?
1%.
Yeah.
Still good money.
Yeah, it's still a really great, but it is not too late, Shirley. Like we were just saying a moment ago, they are currently out of money, but the expectation is that it will be restocked.
Yeah. All of us are playing like there's going to be more money.
Yeah. So my suggestion is to try to get in the queue and make sure that, if a bank will take your application, go ahead and put it in. Because I'm almost positive. I mean, I can't promise because the government is what it is, right? But there's a lot of talk about there's going to be a second wave, another round of funding for the small business owners. And because there's a lot of people who did not get their application processed, have not gotten assistance. There's way more small businesses than there has been money, evidently.
Yes.
So...
Yes, and more of us need help than they allotted. Quite frankly, they just guessed. When they said 349 billion, they guessed.
Yeah.
Like there was no math behind why that number. To the point, like we're a week and a half in and it's gone. And a lot of independent contractors didn't even get their name in the pot. Like that, this is not going to work. They're going to have to fix this. Yeah. Otherwise, all of us are going to be on unemployment, which costs them more money.
And the 8 weeks starts from the minute you get the money.
Yes, the clock starts ticking. And that's why you want the money in a separate checking account so you can track it. Because you don't want to have your software bill automatically draft from that checking account. And then when it's time to go trying to get the loan refunded, $199 a month went to Infusionsoft. Yeah. Okay, well, that doesn't count.
So Karen had asked, where do we find the application? It's on my my bank's website. Most of them have it on their website. Banks have it accessible on their websites. You can probably go to the the
SBA.gov.
SBA.gov website as well. So let's see. Let me see if I see any more. I think those are the biggies. Okay, now I know we've focused primarily on the PPP, but there's the EIDL, whatever that stands for.
The EIDL, yeah.
EIDL, and that's not a loan, though, guys. I mean, I'm sorry, that is a loan, pure and simple, right? And it's got a cap on it.
Yes, it does. And so just for a record, that one, all applications for that are paused as of this morning as well. So both of these are shut right now, but they won't stay shut is our strong belief. So the EIDL is a disaster relief loan. And you have to prove how you have been negatively affected by COVID-19, whether it's decrease in sales, having to lay people off, customers not paying, whatever, but you have to prove it. And it is not forgivable. It remains a loan. However, it's a low interest rate. The last I saw, it was 3.25%. And it can either have a 10 or a 30-year amortization, which is still ridiculous money. There's two parts of the EIDL loan. One is an advance of up to $10,000. However, and that part is forgivable. So if you get an advance, you do not have to pay that back. But you only get the advance if you have employees, and you get $1,000 per employee. So if you have 5 employees, you can get $5,000. If you have 20 employees, you get $10,000. If you have no employees, you don't get the advance. And then you just have to apply for the EIDL loan, show how COVID-19 has negatively affected your company, and they will give you the money. The calculation of how much you're going to get has not been clarified. So I can't tell you that PPP is going to give you $20,833 and EIDL will give you blah, because I don't know. The only thing that we do know is you'll get $1,000 ahead advance if you applied. However, it's closed right now. So, but for my company, I had to apply twice. So I applied, I think like April 1st for the EIDL loan. And then again on the 4th because the website changed. So I was like, well, I'm going to throw my name in the pot. And I got my money yesterday. Or
Excellent. Good.
Tuesday. I got my money Tuesday. So the EIDL money is showing up. And as far, I did see a question about how long it takes to get funded. So say you do get approved for your PPP loan, it will not show up immediately. It is unfortunately a manual process. And the expectation is that you'll have your money within 10 days. I have had clients that have received that money within 24 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my husband's company got approved and they got their money very fast. I mean, it was kind of, it's just been interesting. I've heard different things. But like I say, they have an internal bookkeeper. She had all of her I's and T's crossed before.
Oh, yeah.
She had researched it. She knew exactly what she needed to do. And most of us were not on top of this. I noticed that someone else, I think it was Nick, was asking about, he hires people as contractors, right? Mm-hmm. Nick, you can't claim them as under the PPP, but they can claim it. They can go, those independent contractors, if you are an independent contractor, you're getting 1099, then you can go claim that. And that's an advantage for those people because if they're still getting paid, they can double dip.
Right. And if they're not getting paid, you don't have to feel so bad because they applied for the PPP and they got that to fund them for the next 2 months because your revenue's down.
Yes, exactly. So that's, but if, the flip side of that is if you are bringing in revenue, you can go apply, but you're just capped, so it basically works both ways. We just have to be aware of what our process is and what we what opportunities are available to us. Don't get locked down in the mindset of, oh my gosh, all the money's gone, because they're going to put more money into this. They're just going to have to. So you need to get your ducks in a row and get ready and go apply if your bank is letting you apply and still be in the queue. Or at least be ready for when they do open the doors back up.
Yes, correct.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, Pam, for answering questions. I think we covered it. If you guys jumped in late, listen to the replay because there was so many great questions, so many great answers. I think we framed it up and covered all the basics. I personally feel like I know what I'm qualified for right now, which is basically $20,833.33. I feel so empowered, honestly, now because I at least know what I haven't been able to get a straight answer. It's been crazy. So I'm very appreciative. I appreciate you so much. How can anybody get more info about you or potentially even hire you if they wanted to hire you to help them with this process?
Perfect. So a couple websites. My personal website is pamjordan.com, and it's Jordan just like Michael with an Jordan. My company is Pivot Business Group, PIVOT Business Group. We are a business accounting firm. We don't do taxes. We do business accounting. So we do bookkeeper, controller, CFO, strategy, those kind of things. So how we're helping people is once they get the stimulus money, helping them manage it appropriately so that they can have everything put together. So if you're not currently have someone doing your books, we can help with that. And then as far as the PPP, I created a site. It's called getppploanhelp.com. And if you go there, you can, for the price of your email address, I'd be nice, I promise. For the price of your email address, you'll get my calculator, the one that I use for clients, as well as the document list. So you'll have everything you need to calculate that number. So we've been talking a lot if it's 100,000, but if your number's like 42,000, you can take this calculator, punch it right in, and take that number with you to the bank to be able to prove, look, this is what I'm due for. So PamJordan.com, pivotbusinessgroup.com, or getpploanhelp.com.
It's getpploanhelp.com. I see Ron
Yes.
popped it in, but we just need to add help to that domain name.
And
Yes.
social media, I'm Pam Jordan CFO. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. Pam Jordan CFO.
Well, I just have to give you some major kudos because, like, in the context of something that I'm super powerful about, lots of times life throws us opportunities, and there's opportunity in this right now, right? You stepped up. This is not like what you were doing before all this happened. But no, you saw an opportunity and you're like, and you stepped in and you are working 16-hour days, but you're helping a lot of people. You're educating people. You're physically walking them through the process. Sounds like you're going to banks sometimes, but you saw an opportunity. And I would just challenge all of you, instead of thinking about the things that you no longer have, look around at what you do have. And there's opportunity, guys. There is opportunity. You just have to shift your way of thinking and your mindset and step into those opportunities, right?
Yep. You've got this. Look, you just got to pivot. We got this.
You got to pivot. That's my favorite word. Well, thank you so much. I'm so appreciative of your time and your knowledge. And I'm going to send Mark some flowers or something.
I love Mark. He's so great.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Have a great one, guys. Take care. God bless.
Bye, everybody.